Sacred Harmony, where we don't just talk healing, we embody it. Today, we are joined by Andrew Wilson, a trauma survivor, quantum healing hypnosis practitioner, and author who's turned shadow into strength. Once silently ruled by fear, Andrew now guides others through deep inner child healing, subconscious rewiring, and radical truth telling. In this episode, we are venturing into the unspoken. Why shadow work isn't about silencing the dark, but finally listening to it. Welcome to the show, Andrew. It's an honor to have you.
Thank you very much for having me, Anya.
Mhm. So, Andrew, you said something profound. When we avoid our wounds, our fears speak in our place. Can you share how your own unspoken fears shaped your life before your healing journey began?
Yeah, so when I was going through life itself, I struggled with being reactive, and I always assumed people were laughing at me, even though they probably really weren't. But I told myself in my mind that they were laughing at me because during my childhood, I was bullied a lot, and I would have a very vivid imagination, so I would kind of make up stories and get lost in that vivid imagination. And because I had such a vivid imagination, I was such an easy target for bullying. And as I grew up, I kind of took that mindset with me to my adulthood. And anytime someone would try to give me respective criticism, I would become reactive, and I would lose my temper out of nowhere because I automatically had the idea in my head that the person was calling me incompetent and stupid. And then when I was working in the oil and gas sector, those fears kind of became a reality because then people actually did call me stupid, and I was called retarded and told basically that, like, you're not a good enough worker, and you need to pay attention more. And when your mind is like going in so many different ways, it's hard to just uh, consciously be aware of what's going on because your unconscious mind just kind of takes over you. And my fears just kind of controlled me. And it wasn't until I lost my mother in 2021 that something inside of me said, enough was enough. This isn't working. So I made my very first holistic healing appointment. And I went and I met this lady who had this machine that measures your frequency. And my body was telling me what was wrong with me, but I wasn't listening to my body because I was unconsciously aware that my body was a living organism and was trying to communicate with me. So when I became more aware of it, I started to meditate and I started to understand my fears. And I realized that I had created my shadow, and my shadow has been kind of keeping me from getting successful in, say, like a job or anything. And there were times where I was writing my book and it was kind of stopping me from writing my book. And even with the podcast, there were times like we don't realize our shadow. We create our shadow out of our fear, but our shadow will be there to actually keep us safe at the point now where we're not taking chances, we're not taking risks, to these points that would actually improve ourselves. So when you become aware of your fears, it's just to write them down. I found by asking myself questions and journaling that I was starting to get the answers I was seeking. And that was my intuition communicating with me. And we don't understand that because our fears kind of take over us. And the best form of practice that I've had is through meditation and journaling.
That's amazing. And was there a specific moment, maybe the fall or a breakdown, when you knew fear could no longer lead?
Yeah. Um, when you become to a point where you are emotionally drained, you're burnt out, you have nothing left, and you come to that point where you just want to give up, when you actually get to that point, it's almost like an aha moment that tells you, okay, this is what you need to change. This is not working. But It's almost like you have to get to that point, but there's also ways now through hypnosis and quantum healing that you can get the answers you seek. See, with my clients, when they come, we do like a 2 hour session to get to know one another. And then we'll do a 2 hour induction, and they'll have a list of questions they have for their subconscious mind. So they can ask those questions and get the answers they seek. But at the same time, too, they have to be able to trust. And the biggest thing that we struggle with is trust, because we don't know how to trust in others. Sometimes we don't even know how to trust in ourselves because our fear just kind of runs us and controls us. It's false evidence appearing real. But we're also told that the fear is real. I mean, you see it every day in your social media, you see it on the news, you see it in communities, you see it everywhere. So it's hard to get away from it. So a lot of what I've learned is surrounding yourself with the right people, but also avoiding watching television, avoiding anyone that tries to fearmonger you. When you stop being around people like that, and you start to build a community that's like-minded like yourself and see something different, then you can actually understand your fear more. And I started to understand my fear, and without my fear, I probably wouldn't be having this conversation with you. So to me, my fear is a blessing because I never would have wrote a book. I never would have started a podcast, and I never would have came a quantum healing hypnosis practitioner, because I would still be stuck if I hadn't become aware of that. Or there might have been a different life. Like, we don't know the path of life, but when we become more aware of basically ourselves, because we don't know how to be alone with ourselves even, but when we're actually alone with our thoughts and we get that moment of peace, and the intuition kind of just starts to give you answers. But you have to get away from the environments you're in, the noise that you're around. And there's so much noise. But when you're actually alone with your thoughts with quiet, you start to understand what peace truly is. And then get out with nature, walk on the grass, ground, wear copper, like find your tiger's eye. Even I wear tiger's eye. That helps me to ground. Um, just finding something that's going to ground you, to take you down too, is to find that moment's peace. And to do that, you've got to find out what works for you.
Mm-hmm. And that shift from reacting to responding is where so many of us start reclaiming power. Your story brings that pivot alive.
Yeah, I mean, we're also taught to be reactive too. We're taught to be competitive. We're taught to like stand up for like ourselves. But at the same time, now you don't know what the person's going through that's causing you to be reactive. Like, they may be struggling themselves. You almost have to be very cautious on how you think and how you act to understand how to respond. And it's like taking that moment's breath. And the biggest thing we don't know about is breath work. And I think if a lot of people knew about breath work, there would be less people being reactive. There would be less fights. There'd be less arguments. Because when you are starting to get to that moment where you're triggered, you just pause and take that breath. And yeah, it's easier said than done. But to practice it over and over again, even to like find something that bothers you, and then just start to practice taking a breath and letting yourself have a peaceful moment before you become reactive, it'll improve not only your health, but your quality of life, of how you see people and understand people too. And that's what I've noticed. I mean, yes, there are times where I'm still reactive, but that's a part of me that's still there that I'm working through. Like it's not a one and done deal. You're constantly working. Like I'm constantly doing shadow work. I'm constantly reminding myself while I'm here. And there'll be those limiting beliefs that pop into your head too that will just be like, oh, you're not supposed to be doing this. And that's your shadow. That's your shadow telling you things. It's trying to instruct you to protect you, but it's also hindering you from achieving success, achieving abundance, achieving love, relationships, community. It's uh it's a two-way street kind of when you go through it because you gotta go through basically the dark times before you can go through the light times. And there will be times where the light will get dark, and you just have to remind yourself what your purpose is, why you're doing what you're doing, how you've been working so hard, and just keep reminding yourself, even if you have to write it down, say it out loud, remind yourself of who you are and what you're doing, and how the person that's you think is bothering you is not bothering you at all. In fact, the person's bothering themselves because you are the mirror and you are reflecting what they see, and they are angry because they're not at the level you are.
Mm-hmm. Right. And shadow work often sounds scary to people. How would you explain it to someone who's curious but hesitant?
I'd just say you can find books on it. You can also got ChatGPT will give you like prompts. There's just yeah, like people when I did mine, I was doing prompts and I would just write out like what was bothering me and just like alchemize your emotions. Like one of the guests on my show says, alchemize your emotions. When you're feeling this emotion, sit with it, understand why it's bothering you, see what the trigger's from, where it started, and then go back to that moment and forgive yourself or forgive the person that caused this harm to you. And then that energy is no longer inside you, and that person's no longer in your head. Like I had a lady on my show who talked about the path to forgiveness, and she said, when you start to forgive a person, you also got to forgive their energy. You don't forget what the person did to you, but you forgive them and allow that memory to no longer stand in your way from achieving something wonderful that you might be striving for your business. And that moment you're like, okay, no, I can't because of this past memory. And this past memory is what's basically blocking you from going after something that's going to improve your business. It's just to understand your feelings because we don't pay attention to our feelings. We just kind of one and done. I know I myself, I would become reactive and I would like black out, and then afterwards, I would feel remorse and everything for what I did, but after that, it would just do it go away, and then I would just end up doing it again. So when I stopped doing that and I started to become more aware of why this was happening, where this memory was from, and basically went to that moment and understood it, forgave it, and now every time that I feel that sort of energy or that emotion, I know where it comes from, and then I just become aware of it, and I just take that moment's breath and I just let it go, and I forgive once again. Because trauma, the one thing about trauma is it's with you for life. It doesn't go away. It's always going to be there. But you can either treat it as a hindrance or you can treat it as your own personal superpower.
Mm-hmm. 100%. And what's one gentle first step someone can take to begin befriending their shadow instead of avoiding it?
I would say by journaling, um, understanding like where it's coming from, and to just even talk to yourself, like talk to the moment when it's starting to happen. Close your eyes, picture your shadow there with you, and ask, why do you think it's a time to hinder me for something that's going to make us better? And to not let your shadow be in the driver's seat, but to put it in the back seat, and to let it be there and always watch over you, but to no longer let it control or be the sidekick. Instead, just put it there and just know it's there, respect it, love it, but don't allow it to stop you from what you want to do in life. Don't allow it to control you anymore.
The idea of facing what's hidden can feel overwhelming, especially for those who haven't been in survival mode for years.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, we've we were taught to be in survival mode, right? So it's kind of hard to just unprogram everything you've learned for 30 some years or however long you could deal with this. The idea, of course, the idea is scary. But I mean, the more you level up, the more it's going to get challenging. So there are going to be points in your life where you're going to start to level up. And then, yeah, fear will start to set in. And then your shadow will want to take over. But being mindful of what's going on in the process will keep your shadow from hindering you. Understanding at the fact that it's almost like growth. You, when you start to become fearful or worried about something, that means that you're doing something that's out of your comfort zone. And you've done things that were in your comfort zone for so many years. But now that you're doing something that's totally out of your comfort zone, it's going to be scary. And yeah, of course, the idea of it is terrifying for some, most, even myself. Like, there are times where you're going to have those thoughts in your head, like when you're getting up and speaking in front of a crowd, or you're going out and meeting people, random strangers, one on one. Yeah, there's going to be times where you're going to be afraid, but sit with that moment that you're being afraid and ask yourself why you're feeling it. And then keep reminding yourself why you're there to begin with. And you'll see, like, your intuition will tell you to calm down, relax. Like, I'll use it for an example. I was at an event the other night. My heart was beating like crazy because I'm not used to standing up and talking in front of people. And there was something inside of me who says, "You're okay. You're fine. No one's gonna laugh at you. There's nothing, no harm that's gonna come to you, mentally or physically. Just speak, speak with passion, speak with love, and do your best. That's all you can do." And I listened to that voice, and I totally calmed down. There was no more speeding heart. There was no more shaking, sweats. It's just to be in that moment before you go and do something that's totally out of your comfort zone. Just to take that breath and to listen to your intuition. Let your heart speak for you. Feel it, embody it. And when you do that, the fear just kind of fades away. It still be there to as a reminder, but it will not be there to hinder you from, or block you from, or stop you from getting to what you need to do.
Hmm. Absolutely. And you work a lot with men hiding behind success. What are some of the hidden wounds you notice most often behind that armor?
A lot of people. They're scared of success because they don't know what to do with it. They never had it. I mean, how many people that have gone through so much trauma get something that like literally falls in their lap, and it could be like $1 million idea or $1 million business, and they think, oh well, wait a minute, why can I do this? Because this doesn't seem right. This almost doesn't seem real. It seems like a lie. This isn't me. And then you start to have those limiting beliefs, and you start to tell yourself these things. So when I work with people who are running business, I explain to them, I'm like, yeah, you've never had this type of success. Well, no. And you don't know what to do with this type of success. But what does your heart say? Is this your passion? Is this what you're meant to be doing? Why allow your mind that's telling you all these things to control you? That's your shadow talking. That's your fear talking. That's your trauma talking. What's the first thing that you think of when it comes to wanting this business? I ask them that, I give them the idea, and I let them choose for themselves, because the whole idea of what I do is facilitating. I don't do the work. They do the work themselves. They ask their own questions. That's why there's a list of questions when it comes to doing a quantum healing session, because I don't ask these questions. I ask questions for them during hypnosis. But I'm not the one who wrote these questions. I'm not the one who came up with this came up with these ideas for wanting to know their truth. So I asked them, it's like, well, write down a list of questions that you want to ask your subconscious, and then apply it. And then when you're feeling this automatic idea to self-sabotage, you can basically rewire that idea and take it to something better, to improve it, and to show the growth. So that's basically what I do with my clients. I don't really do anything for them. They kind of do it themselves. I just give them the idea that they need to trust in themselves and also listen to their heart.
Mm-hmm. That makes sense. And how can loved ones support men who may not yet have the language for their pain?
Well, I mean, it's about understanding your body and understanding your trauma. You can be reactive for no reason, but if you don't like actually ask yourself why you're being reactive, how will you understand it? You'll be just unconsciously unaware of it, and you'll just keep repeating the same pattern day after day. It's like you're a mindless robot that's running on programming, an autopilot, and you don't take the time to understand it. But you're also in your work environments, they don't really give you the opportunities to do it. They don't teach you any of this. They teach you how to do your job, but they don't teach you what's going on inside of you so you can do your job efficiently without stress, without hassle, or without worry. Being in that right mindset. But if you're unconsciously aware of what's going on with you, then you're never going to understand the language. It's when you start to pay attention, you start to ask yourself these questions. Why are you feeling this way? That's when you can start to understand the language.
It's powerful to explore masculinity through the lens of vulnerability. We need more of this conversation in the world.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, but we were also taught in our age that vulnerability is a sign of weakness. So, I mean, you try to get men to talk about their feelings nowadays, that's going to be a slippery slope because they're considered a coward, they're considered weak from not only themselves, but the environments they were in, or even, God love them, our parents. Like our parents were even the ones that told us to, be strong. You're not supposed to have vulnerability moments. But yeah, when men actually allow themselves to be vulnerable, or not just men, anybody allows themselves to be vulnerable and to express their emotions, then they're not bottling it all up inside of them. They're not taking all their frustration out at once. It's pieces of it. Okay, why are you feeling this way? And then you just start to pick up all the pieces that were broken inside of you and rebuild it.
Mm-hmm. 100%. So, Andrew Wilson reminds us that healing isn't about fixing the broken, it's about listening to the parts we have silenced and forgotten. Shadow work is where the real light begins. If you're tired of reacting from pain and ready to respond with purpose, this episode is your mirror. Go gently, go honestly, and keep walking towards wholeness.